In an era addicted to expression, where status updates masquerade as substance and sharing is mistaken for strength, we've forgotten one of the most underestimated tools in human interaction: strategic silence. While the world applauds those who speak the loudest, post the most, and react the fastest, the true operators of power move in deliberate quiet. They understand something the masses do not: that silence is not weakness, it's control. Niccolò Machiavelli, the razor-sharp Florentine political philosopher of the 16th century, saw this clearly. Though many remember him for his bold declarations, in The Prince, some of his sharpest strategies were tucked in the spaces between his words. He warned that the vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances, pointing out that speechcraft's illusions, while silence preserves reality. In a time when everyone scrambles to be seen and heard, the Machiavellian strategist chooses invisibility and restraint, not to avoid attention, but to control it. They let others broadcast their ambitions while they stay quiet, calculating. They understand that power isn't in what's said, it's in what's withheld, the cost of unnecessary speech, vulnerability. In Machiavelli's time, loose words could mean exile or execution. Today, the stakes are different but no less dangerous. Reputation, leverage, and influence are all on the line. Every word spoken gives others insight into your plans, your psychology, your weaknesses. Silence, on the other hand, gives nothing. It cannot be misquoted, manipulated, or misinterpreted. It's a cloak of ambiguity in a world obsessed with clarity. Let's break down what silence actually protects you from. Speech creates commitments. When you declare your intentions, you bind yourself publicly. People expect consistency, change direction, and you're seen as unstable. Stay silent, and you preserve freedom to adapt without apology. Speech exposes your mind. The more you talk, the more you reveal. Others begin to map out your logic, your emotional triggers, your limits. Silence, however, hides your algorithm. Speech reduces mystique. The more accessible your thoughts are, the more ordinary you become. As Machiavelli said, it is far safer to be feared than loved, and fear, real fear, requires distance. Distance demands mystery. In a culture where silence is seen as suspicious and overexposure is celebrated, those who master selective restraint hold an advantage. They understand the ancient paradox: he who speaks less commands more. To the untrained eye, silence appears passive, empty space between action and reaction. But to those who understand psychological warfare, silence is a loaded weapon. It's not the absence of power, it's the concealment of it. Every time you choose silence over speech, you're initiating a mental game. The human mind hates uncertainty. When someone expects a response and receives none, they begin to spiral. They fill the silence with assumptions, projections, and insecurity. And that's where control begins, not by what you say, but by what they think you might be thinking. Machiavellian silence is never about disengagement. It's about positioning. You speak only when your words strike hardest, when they shift power, not just fill air. This is the art of tactical ambiguity. When your thoughts are unknown, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability breeds caution in your opponents. They tread carefully around you, they overanalyze, they hesitate. Meanwhile, you move with clarity, because you're the one who sees the board. Here's how this works in real-world scenarios. In negotiation, the moment you speak first, you reveal your bottom line. But when you're silent, the other side starts negotiating against themselves. They begin second-guessing: did I go too low, too high? What are they thinking? Your stillness becomes their mental battlefield. In conflict, people expect retaliation. They expect arguments, defenses, fireworks. But when you meet provocation with silence, you rob the aggressor of energy. Your quiet forces them to confront themselves. They project meaning onto your silence, usually revealing more about their insecurities than your position. In power dynamics, leaders who speak less are feared more. Why? Because unpredictability signals danger. When a powerful figure is quiet, subordinates imagine the worst. Silence amplifies their presence because people don't fear what they know, they fear what they can't predict. This is the Machiavellian principle of non-reactivity. When you react emotionally, you expose where you're weak, you show your buttons. But when you're unshaken, when silence is your only reply, you disrupt the emotional rhythm of your opponent. Remember, silence isn't about disengagement, it's about psychological priming. You plant uncertainty in others while you remain internally composed. And in the spaces where others panic, you plot. In a loud world, the quietest voice becomes the most intriguing. The less you say, the more people listen when you finally speak. And that's the leverage. The illusion of control becomes actual control. Because when others are guessing, you're deciding. This is not silence for peace, it's silence for power. Sometimes, the most powerful move isn't to appear, it's to vanish. Strategic absence isn't about running, it's about pulling back to pull focus. When you remove your energy from a space, you force others to feel the weight of your absence. And that weight, that's power. It lingers, it echoes, it speaks louder than your presence ever could. Disappearance disrupts. It unsettles routines, questions assumptions, and creates a vacuum. And nature, especially human nature, hates a vacuum. People begin to wonder, speculate, project. In your silence, you become larger than life. You become myth. Here's the key. Most people are addicted to attention. They need to be seen to feel powerful, but that desperation reveals their hand. A true strategist knows that presence, when overused, becomes noise. It loses value. But when you step away intentionally, without explanation, you reset the entire dynamic. Suddenly, your return becomes an event. Think of it like this. You're not just a person, you're a signal. When that signal disappears, everyone starts scanning for it. Where did they go? Why did they stop showing up? Are they watching? Are they plotting? You are not forgotten, you are magnified. This applies in every arena. In relationships, disappear for a while. Let them sit with the silence. If your presence truly mattered, they'll feel it. And if they don't, you just gathered valuable intel. In business, pull back when others expect you to chase. Delay your response. Let the market lean in. You're not reacting, you're creating anticipation. And anticipation is the seed of influence. In social settings, become a mystery. A known quantity becomes predictable. But mystery breeds fascination. When they can't figure you out, they keep thinking about you. And thinking is the first step toward obsession. This is the art of controlled absence. Not random, not reactive. It's calculated. It's psychological judo. You use your absence to trigger their thoughts, their emotions, their obsession. You make them chase. But here's where most people fail. They return too soon. They crave validation. They want to see if their silence worked. That breaks the spell. True power lies in detachment. You don't return out of curiosity. You return when your reappearance serves a purpose, when your presence creates maximum impact. A strategist doesn't seek attention. They command it by controlling the rhythm of their appearances. So vanish like a shadow and return like a storm. When your silence ends, let it be unforgettable. That's not absence, that's asymmetric warfare. Emotions are the enemy of strategy, not because feelings are weak, but because they're predictable. And the predictable mind is a controlled mind. If you want to rise in power, if you want to influence, manipulate, lead, or dominate, you need to kill the urge to react emotionally. Reactivity is slavery. It means someone else pulls your strings. You become their puppet, not your own master. True power comes from detachment, a calm, cold space between stimulus and response. When someone insults you, when a situation provokes you, when you're baited into reacting, don't. Let them sweat, let them spiral, let them talk themselves into weakness. Silence is not inaction, it's a psychological scalpel. You don't confront chaos with noise, you conquer it with control. And control starts within. Let's break it down. Detachment protects your strategy. When you're emotionally hooked, your judgment is clouded. You move based on ego, not calculation. But if you pause, breathe, detach, you gain clarity. Clarity is lethal in a world of emotionally driven fools. Detachment reveals weakness in others. When you're silent and calm, people show their cards. They overshare, they overreact. They expose exactly what you need to dominate the situation. Their noise is your map. Their chaos becomes your intel. Detachment gives you range. It allows you to play roles, wear masks, switch lanes. You can feign care or interest while staying emotionally untouched. You're not in the game. You're above it, pulling strings like a puppeteer. But here's the twist. Detachment is not apathy. You still feel, you still care. But you don't let those feelings control your next move. You own your emotions. They don't own you, because here's the truth. When people can't trigger you, they can't control you. And when they can't control you, they fear you. That fear turns into respect. And that respect turns into power. Don't flinch, don't defend, don't explain. Let the world guess where you stand. Make your silence louder than their screaming. Let your calm shake their ground. This is psychological warfare. Not with weapons, but with discipline. You become the eye of the storm, still focused, immovable. While everyone else spins in reaction, you stay sovereign. You win not by overpowering, but by outlasting, by being the last mind standing, unshaken, while the emotionally triggered burn themselves out. Detach to dominate. Control yourself, and you control the game. Remember, the loudest person is rarely in control. The calm one is pulling the strings. Presence is power, but absence is influence. When you're always available, always talking, always present, you become common, expected, taken for granted. But when you pull back, disappear strategically, you create mystery. And mystery? That's magnetic. The human mind craves patterns, certainty, predictability. So when you suddenly go quiet, vanish, they panic. They search for meaning, they project, they obsess. And in that spiral, they reveal everything you need. Let's be clear, silence isn't passive, it's an active weapon. Use it like this. Create anxiety through your disappearance. When people are used to your voice, your validation, your reactions, and then you stop. It creates a psychological vacuum, a silence so loud it echoes. They wonder, did I mess up? Did I lose access? Are they plotting? That uncertainty, that's leverage. Reward with presence, punish with absence. Instead of arguing, explaining, or chasing, withdraw. Let your silence be the consequence. People value what they fear losing. When you disappear, they suddenly remember your worth. Make your presence feel like a privilege, not a given. Force reflection through withdrawal. Most people never think deeply until they're alone. When you go silent, they finally hear themselves. And what they hear often scares them. That's when they return, not because you chased, but because your silence made them face themselves. You don't need to fight for space. You don't need to scream to be heard. The real game is psychological. And silence is your checkmate move. But here's the art. Don't disappear emotionally. Disappear strategically, with intent, with timing, with calculated impact. You're not ghosting, you're shifting the power dynamic. Because when you remove yourself, you teach people how it feels to lose you. And in that absence, you become larger than life. The mind magnifies what it no longer has access to. You go from background noise to myth. Absence creates demand. Silence creates suspense. Mystery creates value. Be the one who chooses when to show up. Be the one who decides when to speak. And when you do return, when you re-enter the room, the call, the conversation, every eye turns. Every ear leans in, because now you're not just a person, you're an event. Remember, you don't gain power by always being seen. You gain power by mastering when to be seen and when to vanish. Disappear just enough to be unforgettable. Withdraw just enough to be irreplaceable. And when you return with silence first. Let them feel the weight of your absence before they hear the sound of your voice. Now let's take a step back. All these principles we've discussed, information asymmetry, ambiguity preserving silence, and absence as influence, are not just concepts. They are strategies you can wield like a finely honed sword. But the real art? It's in how you apply them at the right moments, with precision. You might think the most powerful person is the one who can talk the longest, who can speak the loudest. But in reality, the most powerful person is the one who understands that silence is a weapon, one they choose to use when it serves their interests. Silence in leadership, commanding respect without explaining every move. Machiavelli's principles were timeless, but they're just as relevant in leadership today. The most influential leaders are not the ones constantly explaining their every decision or over-justifying their every action. True leaders know that their actions speak for themselves. They lead by the strength of their presence, not the volume of their words. Think of the most effective CEOs, the high-impact influencers, the political power players. They don't explain every move, every strategy, every thought. They leave space for others to project, to interpret, and to anticipate. This mystique increases their perceived value. In leadership, silence works because it conveys confidence. It shows that you don't feel the need to justify yourself or your decisions constantly. When you speak, your words carry weight. You're not a chatterbox. You're a strategist, speaking only when necessary, not out of insecurity. Silence in negotiations, strengthening your position by withholding information. Negotiation is one of the clearest battlegrounds for strategic silence. The first person who speaks often loses. This is not just a casual observation, it's the foundation of negotiating power. The more you talk, the more you reveal your weaknesses, your desires, your concessions. The more the other party knows, the more they can use it against you. If you're negotiating and you start spilling your intentions, desires, and reasoning, you're giving up leverage. What you don't say, that's your shield. By staying silent, you keep your cards close to your chest, forcing the other party to make the next move. And when they do, you're in a position to observe, to strategize, and to strike. Silence. In personal relationships, creating boundaries and maintaining mystery. Machiavelli understood the delicate balance between fear and love, and silence plays a role here too. It's about knowing when to let others in and when to keep them out. In personal relationships, silence is not about playing games. It's about self-respect and self-preservation. You don't have to share everything. Your deepest thoughts, emotions, or past experiences are yours alone to control. And when you choose to share, it should be with purpose. Not because you're compelled to fill the silence, but because you choose to express what aligns with your values, goals, and needs. The balance here is subtle. Use silence to maintain healthy boundaries. Use silence to let others reveal themselves, rather than filling the air with your own words. In relationships, those who speak too much, too often, too soon, tend to give too much away. They risk becoming predictable and ultimately dispensable. Silence in self-mastery, creating emotional distance and strategic detachment. At the core of all this is a profound sense of self-control. To master silence, you must first master yourself. You need the discipline to hold back, not because you're afraid or insecure, but because you know the power of strategic detachment. Your emotions, your thoughts, your intentions, they're all under your command. If you can control your impulses to speak out of habit, to justify yourself, to seek validation from others, then you begin to transcend the noise of the world around you. You are no longer a slave to external opinions or pressures. You speak when you choose, not when you're expected. In a world where everyone is talking, those who remain silent are the ones who truly stand out. The art of silence isn't about avoiding communication, it's about strategic communication. It's about withholding when it serves your interests, speaking only when it enhances your position, and creating space for others to project, reveal, and expose themselves. The power of silence lies in its ability to control perception, to shape expectations, and to control the flow of information. It's a tool that, when wielded properly, can elevate your influence, protect your position, and ensure your success. Machiavelli, in all his complexity, recognized the value of silence not just as a tactic, but as a profound strategy. In this age of oversharing, where everyone is desperate to be seen and heard, the true master is the one who understands that sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all. So, whether in leadership, negotiations, relationships, or personal growth, embrace silence. Let it empower you. Let it make your words matter more. Let it position you to win while others are still talking about winning. Be silent. Be strategic. Be unstoppable. See you in the next video.